Denver Broncos at the Philadelphia Eagles Sunday at 1. Eagles playing some big 1 o'clock games here against teams. Rams, Bucks, and now the Broncos.
Yeah.
Eagles are favored by 4.5. They're undefeated, 4-0 against the 2-2 Denver Broncos. Over under just 43.5. The Eagles are in this world where every stat about them is a massive anomaly.
Yeah. Was it true? I think it was one of the tweets I saw that they've been outgained in every game so far this year.
4-0. That's the first time in history. I saw one of their beat writers with a very nuanced take because we've seen the Eagles the last 2 years. Reminder, in 2023, they started 10-1. And even though things didn't seem right, they kept winning. And they were winning against good teams. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. They were beating good teams before they collapsed in the second half. And then last year, I believe they started 2-2 and didn't lose after that, or whatever it was, or lost once with Kenny Pickett. But they started 2-2. But Saquon looked great early on. Like everything seemed better last year for the Eagles early on. But they also evolved and grew as they went and won a Super Bowl. So like which Eagles team is this, right? Like if you're going to sit here, do you sit here and nitpick a 4-0 team? They're being outgained. A.J. Brown's tweeting cryptic stuff. He's not he's not getting targeted enough in certain games. He's not being productive in other games. Saquon's averaging about 3 yards a pop. Jalen Hurts isn't throwing the ball down the field. The defense gave up 2 70-yarders last week. Do you nitpick this team and say, well, this is unsustainable? Or do you say, man, as I say every week, the Eagles have multiple ways to win. I've seen this pass game be good before. I have faith in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. I've seen Saquon create big plays. I have faith in him figuring it out. And I've seen Vic Fangio, lead this defense and, the back 7 additions that they've had the last couple of years. I think they'll be absolutely fine. So I think the analysis on this Eagles team is fascinating right now for a 4-0 team where the underlying metrics don't match whatsoever.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think that just because the Eagles have shown that they can that they've had a good offense before with this same group of personnel, you would say, well, there's nothing to worry about here. This is just a weird run or statistical anomaly or blah, blah, blah. Because we've seen this offense struggle as well. Like they've had quite a lot of continuity in terms of personnel, not necessarily with the coaching, and they've gone through a lot of iterations where there have been stretches where this offense has looked problematic before. Okay, a lot of the times that's involved an injury to A.J. Brown or, key personnel. But I think there have been times where it just hasn't looked great. But I think where the difference is that you wouldn't say just because it's struggling now means it can't be good in January, right? Like that part is fine. So I think it could be a problem. That there have definitely been stretches where this offense has looked rudimentary, where they don't necessarily have a ton of answers in the passing game, and where it tends to come down to just one-on-one ISO routes on the outside, and let's just give A.J. Brown a chance. And generally when you give A.J. Brown a chance, he's too physically imposing for a lot of defenders to go one-on-one with and win. So I think it could definitely be the case that this is not an offense in good shape right now. And yet they found ways of winning and blocked kicks and stuff like that. But, Denver's defense is one of the best in the league. They get a ton of pressure. They're going to cause some issues. So at some point, some of the best stretches this offense has been in is where Jalen Hurts, taps into his inner Baker Mayfield and just goes YOLO, right? What if I just start throwing the ball down the field and see what happens?
Yeah, and it's not just jump balls or anything like that. He can make some downfield throws. Hurts is a unique quarterback in many ways, right? Just the fact that you've got the tush-push thing. You have this slower style for the Eagles where it's just get to 3rd and 1, and we know we're going to convert, and we're going to, play off that. But we've also seen Hurts. There's certain quarterbacks who I think do get streaky. I think Herbert has these on-off streaks. Josh Allen early in his career had these. Hurts has these as well, and I think it hits the entire offense. The number of times, even when the Eagles are winning a lot, that I say they scored 28 in the first half and nothing in the second half. Did they let their foot off the gas? What was it? Or in the Rams case, it went the other way, right? Slow early, great late. Why does this offense get so inconsistent? And then Hurts is unique in this other way with the papers.
Yes.
He's got the lowest rate of intermediate pass attempts.
Okay.
In the last 10 years. only 8%. So what's unique about this? Why does this matter? That's the 10 to 19 yard range. That is the range where most quarterbacks make their money, right? That is where you don't see NFL offenses not attack that area, right? And they haven't at this low of a rate in about 10 years. College, you see that sometimes, right? You see offenses that are hitches and screens in the short game, and then chuck it downfield. Baylor type offenses, right? Let's just take shots. So it's unique to the NFL to have that boom or bust of a passing game, right? Where it's a bunch of short passes, and then hey, when we throw down the field, we're really throwing the ball down the field. But that 10 to 19 range is not open, and you have two guys that are really good at getting open there in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert when he's healthy. I know he's banged up, so it's just an interesting time for the Eagles. And I say all that to say, like, I have more confidence in them figuring it out because I've seen them do it. So I think they'll be fine there. Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
What do you make of the relative lack of impact of Saquon Barkley, last year's superstar 2,000-yard rusher? I guess the obvious and biggest difference is you spent all last season talking about how the man was individually responsible for like half of the explosive running plays in the NFL, or whatever the stat was, less than half, but big. They basically don't exist so far this year.
I think that's part of it. I think that's a big part of it. So on one hand, 60-yard plays are fluky, right? Fluky as it takes skill, but it's really hard to just be like, hey, Saquon, if you could just... You don't just dial up the 60-yard run. It's got to come together. The other part is the Eagles, they lost Mekhi Becton at right guard. He had some key blocks on those plays. Their interior run blocking, I don't think has been the same as last year. Landon Dickerson's playing through injury and the whole thing. So there's a combination of things. And even their offense last year, right? I mean, this has been Saquon's entire career where he'll have 20 carries for 40 yards, but if you just rattle off a 60, the average is good. He doesn't have the 60s right now.
His current longest run this season is 29 yards, which is 26th in the NFL.
Yeah, and last year, the percentage of his yards that came on breakaways was probably, I don't know what the percentage would be, but
it was huge.
A massive number.
The point
and
is,
if you just eliminate that, it's like the same running game minus the explosives.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly that, because I think it's a little less
definitely
efficient
worse.
too.
Yeah.
He's also run into games like they've been running the clock. They did it against the Chiefs. They were trying to run the clock. They've been up in a lot of these games. The Cowboys were putting extra bodies up against him in week 1. So the averages are down. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. On one hand, it's like, well, maybe those show up every now and then. But they haven't to this point. So that's what I mean. Like, the Eagles are kind of like what I said about the Jags. The fact that they're 4-0, despite not getting the best from A.J. Brown outside of a half, despite not getting the best from Saquon Barkley, I think that's actually encouraging for the Eagles, and I would lean toward it's more of a positive than a negative at this point, that the underlying metrics don't lead to what should be a 4-0 team.
Yeah, I think we know that the ceiling is higher, obviously, because they've been better than this before. But I do think that they need to get more creative in order to tap into the best performance of these superstar athletes they have.
Now, they're playing the Broncos. I know we spent a lot of time on the Eagles. Broncos coming off the Monday night domination against the Bengals. The Denver pass rush, as good as it gets this year. Nick Bonito continues to get better. Jonathan Cooper's been outstanding. You have Zach Allen.
Sacks, I think, already leads the league again, having led the league last year in sacks on
Who's
defense.
That?
Denver.
Oh, Denver. I thought you were saying Bonito. Yeah. They've been incredible. Can they do the same thing against Philadelphia? You don't get the same drop back pass game. They're not going to have a sitting duck,
right?
Like a Jake Browning.
And they're going up against very good offensive
with the
line.
same offensive tackles, but they've shown that they can create a ton of havoc. I will say that where Denver struggled this year, the one game where that defense struggled was against Shane Steichen and the Colts offense, which creates a lot more trickeration. I use trickeration a lot more misdirection, play action. We'll play a lot more the Eagles style because that's where
it has
came
similar
from.
characteristics, not just in terms of the stylistic schematic matchup because Steichen has a history there, but you start listing the things. You've got a very, very good running back in Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. You've got a pretty damn good offensive line. You've got a quarterback that's got a rushing threat to him as well as part of the design game, as well as the drop back pass game, and you've got receiving weaponry on the outside. Like, there's a lot of similarities between the Colts offense and the Eagles offense.
I would also say Sean Payton, like Bo Nix has been up and down from a performance standpoint, absolutely coming off of his best game against Cincinnati Monday night. I feel like since the middle of last year, Sean Payton has made a massive impact on this offense. I didn't feel the impact of Sean Payton through the Russell Wilson experiments, maybe through the first half of last year. I felt like there was a turning point where Payton, all of a sudden, there are open receivers, whether it's our guy Troy Franklin, whether it's Marvin Mims, there are open receivers behind the defense. There are easy buttons, some schemed up plays, some mismatches created. I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup against Fangio's defense, which, again, the versatility that they've added with Cooper DeJean and Jahad Campbell, who we broke down in some detail yesterday, and the flexibility that he's brought from a coverage perspective as a rookie linebacker. Love this matchup. And can Denver continue to dial up, free up Troy Franklin, free up Marvin Mims, get their running game going again as they did on Monday night with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. That's a really interesting matchup that I think ends up determining this game.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins, who's been fantastic this year again. That dude is such a great story in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he has gone through so many major injuries, like things that normally would derail a running back's career. And they have derailed his multiple times. And every time he just comes back and he's still really good. Like, it's nuts. We've got, multiple running backs in the NFL where they deal with one serious injury and they're never the same again. Every time J.K. Dobbins has a serious injury, he comes back, maybe for a different team, and he's still immediately an impact playmaker and a difference maker for that side. I love watching that guy run. Bo Nix has had, I think, two major problems so far this year. Number one, he's gone back to that, very, very iffy with the deep ball in terms of the efficiency and how often he's actually connecting with those, because they've had guys open a lot again, and he's just not hitting them at an unacceptable rate, even relative to the low percentage pass that is. And then the other thing is he's kind of gone back to being early rookie season Bo Nix in terms of one of the lowest average depths of target in the NFL. And despite that, we're not super efficient on the short stuff either. Again, according to Sam Hoppin's composite QB stat stuff, he is 32nd in the NFL in clean pocket success rate. So, you got a super low average depth of target. You're not pushing the ball down the field very often. When you are, you're missing those throws.
Because Broncos' pass protection has been really good.
Right. So, at the very minimum, if you're going to be kept clean and you're generally skewing towards low, high percentage plays anyway, you've got to be pretty efficient there. And he's not. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league at that stuff. So, I mean, that's just bad.
And that brings me to my other point on this one. The Eagles rushing 5 this year. Great stat from 33rd team, research team. When they're rushing 5 or more, they're allowing just 2.1 yards per play. That's where Denver has struggled. They're at only 4.3 yards per play. So that's Denver's at their worst against 5+. Philly's at their best, sending 5 or more. You've got Zach Bond, you have Jahad Campbell, the flexibility that Fangio has now.
Yeah.
Philly and Denver. Philly's defense worse when they're just rushing 4, believe it or not. Denver's defense, our offense, better against 4. So the add-on rusher, whether it's Campbell, Bond.
Campbell's been a big part of that.
Yes.
I mean, this is a guy, I remember, who was being talked about as potentially a defensive line convert at draft time by some people. And then when the Eagles drafted him, there was that period of time where it was fuzzy what his role would be. Were they actually going to line him up as basically a defensive end, or, no, he's going to be – but they're using him as a true off-the-ball linebacker who will be a real value add as an add-on blitzer. And he's already gotten quite a chunk of pressure doing that. So, yeah, huge help with him for that pass game.
Really fun matchup, both sides of the ball. Lane Johnson, questionable. We know he's been banged up and out of the lineup at various points during this season. Just something else to keep an eye on for Philly. Philly remains, not just because they're the defending Super Bowl champions and haven't lost a game in Jalen Hurts is 18-0 in his last 18 starts that he's started and finished. Whatever that number just keeps rising. They find ways to win. And then one more shout out to Moro Ojomo, who is living up to the Philly fan hype and having a great season so far with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on the interior.
Despite you questioning him the entire
Never questioned him. He was an old model guy, man. Why would I question him? All right, man. Eagles by 4.5 here.
Yeah.
In all these big games the Eagles are playing, Sunday at 1. Big game, Sunday at 1. 43.5 over under. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going with the Eagles, and I kind of hate that.
Yeah.
I do think Denver's defense will cause them problems, and I do think there are real issues within that offense, but I just have no confidence in Bo Nix.
Yeah, I'll take Philly as well. For a team that's being outgained and isn't, dominating these games and is winning by, a couple points here and there.
It's also, by the way, it's weird that the distribution of that sort of futility it's not even. It's not like they're just constantly struggling. It's like they go okay for a half and then they just nothing in the next half. Like the last two games, the first half they had 18 or 17 passing yards, and then last week you were saying in the second half they had negative team passing yards because of the sacks.
Right.
Which means that in order for them to have had like a half-decent overall production, the other halves were good.
And that's been a Jalen Hurts feature across multiple coordinators.
Yeah.
Right, where I've been on the show many times questioning why was the first half completely different than the second half, or why did it go stale, or whatever it is. I'm still taking Philly, as is Harry, to cover the 4.5 here. Broncos fans are going to hate us with this analysis. They're going to hate it.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?